Let's move on to number 4, wastewater plant discussion and info, Mark.
So, as you know, we've been under a commissioner's order and a notice of violations. And I want to kind of talk that through a little bit. So item 4, 5, and what was the other? Hang on one second. 6 are all part and parcel. So I'm going to try and cover all 3 of those at one time. I'm going to start with 6. So we've been notified that the attorney that we've secured from Nashville is changing firms. So there is a choice and direction letter that we have to address. There are 5 options of what we do. The options are retain the matter at the current law firm and continue the client relationship with that law firm. Retain some matters at that law firm and any unrelated or any related unapplied trust accounts, and transfer some matters to the attorney at the new firm, along with any related unapplied trust accounts. And then we got to define what those are, and then transfer matters to the attorney at the new firm, along with any unapplied trust accounts, and terminate the client relationship with the old law firm. Transfer the matter of the client along with any unapplied trust account and terminate client relationship with the other, and then transfer matters to the below attorney along with any unapplied trust accounts and terminate client relationship with Borough Foreman. After consulting with the attorney's office, they recommended the 3rd one down, which is transfer the matter to the existing attorney who has the contacts with the TDEC folks and all that, along with any unapplied trust accounts, and terminate the client relationship with the existing law firm. And we'll continue on with that attorney. We will have to enter into another agreement with them, and
The initial agreement was we would retain the services for a maximum of 10 hours. And during this period of time, we're getting near the end of that. So this would be an appropriate time for the board to discuss how they wish to proceed with continue to retain the services. Whether it's the same type of limited time frame of the budget, it can always be reviewed. But the bills have come in, and so far we're just under the amount that we are allocated. But it's time to decide about any reallocation, plus the idea of this attorney changing firms. But I think we'd be well served to continue where we're going. Basically, this attorney is what we hired for the commissioner's order, which had the assessments of very, very, very large fines. Unfortunately, the decisions on that's been somewhat derailed by a series of NOVs that we've had come up that need correcting before we can go back and address that other major issue. And we'll get into some of the issues that Mr. Stables has been able to work with to try to get the sewer plant and Hugh back on the track so that we can go back and address all the current NOVs plus the original commissioner's order. So my recommendation is that we would stay with Mr. Penn as new firm.
And that was option 3.
Yes. I'll put it together in the legislative memo and bring it forward with that, with the recommendation from staff. But I wanted to bring it to you before if there's any questions, so you guys can ask them and I can answer, and the attorney's with me as well, so we can speak to anything that may come about as a question. If there aren't any questions on that, I'm going to move to 5. So with the capacity issue of the plant and the violations that we've been dealing with and the commissioner's order that we've been dealing with, it's probably inevitable that at some point the state's going to tell us to stop allowing capacity to come online with our plant. So before they do that, my suggestion is that we come up with a temporary moratorium in the town to not have any new capacity added to our plant. I'm not talking about a permanent, but I'm talking about no new construction, no new facilities that are going to add to the capacity issues that the plant is facing, whether it's lift stations, whether it's the overall plant operation. The other thing is it helps us in developing a scope of work for addressing long-term solutions to the plant. And right now, I'm gonna tell you that the plant has been the bane of my existence since I walked in the door here. And this is one way of continuing to address the issues while not getting more added on to the issue.
How much new construction would we be looking at possibly losing by putting
I don't think,
because we don't have too much.
yeah, I don't think people are beating down the door, but I'm dealing with a property right now that, and they're not gonna be part of the moratorium certainly because they were in the process before.
Right.
But we're dealing with a lift station that is beyond capacity, so it's gonna require a rebuild. And we're going through the process with the customer of figuring out how that looks because the cost is borne by them. Now, that cost, I can't even begin to tell you what that is. And that's some of the stuff that we're going back and forth with the engineers and such. So it's why we're trying to address their issue in the most thoughtful way. But it's created a nightmare for me for just dealing with this one customer. I've got 780 or 800 customers out there that are dealing with the same things. And if they were to add on to this lift station without it, the people that are already there are gonna deal with fallout from that lift station failure. So, that's the reason I bring this issue up. Just wanna get the read of the room of what your all's thoughts are and, you know, that kind of thing.
Will that do us any good with the state, our good, like it's a good faith effort of, you know, we're,
I wish I could read the tea leaves and tell you, but I can't, in my heart of hearts, tell you what they're thinking. But I have a sinking feeling that inevitably, with the commissioner's order and things like that, and the failing issues with the plant and the continued notices of violation, that becomes an issue, that they finally say, hey, you know, you can't take on any more because you're having a difficult time dealing with what you have.
right.
And I say that, I think that they would recognize it for what it is, which is we're becoming proactive in managing as opposed to reactive in managing. And, that's my thoughts on it.
How does that affect the phase one that we're in right now? Does that affect it?
No, none of that gets affected. Quite honestly, the order of the phases is probably not the best. If we would have started with phase two as the first, we'd probably be in a better place right now. And that's coming from the technical expert. We've navigated this, but they're almost to the end. We were supposed to do some startup this week that ended up getting canceled because of the manufacturer. They're beyond their days, but they've got weather days that they've asked for. So I will let you know as soon as phase one is done, because I've asked them to expedite phase two as soon as we can. It definitely has to happen by August. Hugh and I both had a conversation with them that I'm gonna expect them to get started sooner than later and start executing on tasks, so.
When you said adding on to the lift station, is that like the pump stations or you talking about the sewer plant adding on?
I'm talking about in the field, the lift stations.
Okay.
That's what we're dealing with this one
Is
particular.
it a certain lift station or is that area lift station?
It's a certain one right now for that property owner, but there are several that are at capacity. So if somebody bought a property and wanted to add a structure, that adds an impact to the lift station that is there.
Okay.
And they're at capacity, basically, is the best way I can explain it.
Well, for the most part, yes, about all of them. Maybe have some capacity left, but that's not really the most important capacity issue is the plant is the biggest thing that, you know, to add more connections when you can't handle the connections you have now.
Yes.
There's only one lift station that's really maybe over capacity, and the rest of them are borderline. I mean, there's been analysis done by your engineer with their PER, preliminary engineering report, and it's stated how much more that they can possibly take before they need to be. And this is capacity issues, not as well timed. Some of them are very old, very rusty, in bad shape. So, you know, that can also have shorten the lifespan of the pump station as well. So there's multiple factors here. But realistically, where we're having the commissioner's order and the biggest problem is at the plant. So every gallon that you add to that is put worse on that plant. Henceforth, a self-imposed moratorium is something you guys can kind of control. I'm sorry, understand that. It's something y'all can kind of control. So as you do better, you see you're doing better, you can relax your standards, or we can allow this, or we can allow that. When the state imposes it, they decide when it's good enough or that you have met certain criteria to relax that. So they can hold you up as long as they want to.
Would it be in your history, it seem like if we have a self-imposed moratorium, will the state come in and do another one on top of that?
Not on top of that, it would supersede it if they'd done it, but I think if we as a town meet our benchmarks, set forth a criteria, hey, we're not gonna add any more unless we show significant improvement in these areas, then they'll be okay. Now, last moratorium I seen was 10 years ago, but they've done the very same thing in Jonesboro. After the commissioner's order, as part of the commissioner's order was a moratorium, and you had to meet their benchmarks from what they said and when they decided before they would allow any more connections. And that was pretty booming over there, so I'm just saying it's better for us to take control, or try to take control, and maybe they'll be satisfied with being proactive instead of letting them dictate what happens to us.
I would agree with that 100%.
That's just what I could.
What you're saying is nobody's allowed to build a house right now that's gonna be able to hook up to a sewer system.
And nobody's beating down our door
No,
to
there's
build.
very little real estate.
There's very infrequent building permit. However, I don't want to issue any more building permits because we're at capacity. And so I've talked to our building permit folks, and we're gonna be talking to the planning if that's the will of the board, to kind of get in front of this and start moving that forward. So we're not approving things and then we get to a point where we can't approve something.
So, John, so if somebody came in and they had bought a piece of property where, they could put septic on it and it perked, would we be able to issue a building permit at that point?
The answer is yes, and,
Okay.
and if you want me to write the moratorium that way, I think we can navigate that, because perking doesn't impact the system.
No.
If I may for a second?
Yes.
If you do the moratorium and it's happens either way, there is a couple things that needs to happen through the town. And as the sewer use ordinance and those standards need to be sort of revised. I think it's been at least 20 years where MTS helped you all do this previously. So they kind of need to be looked at and critiqued a little bit and updated. And this will also give you time to update your rules and regs, sewer ordinances and that sort of thing. So when you relax the moratorium or just take it off altogether, then you set yourself for the future, you're not still living under old rules that don't really apply to new property that's being developed. Because tiny houses like that, wouldn't even thought of it in those days when your sewer ordinance and stuff were developed. So that's just one idea that how far the times have changed, and your ordinances don't reflect that.
The idea of having a self-imposed moratorium where we would have a little bit more control of it versus the state coming in and setting control of it, I think if that's kind of the way that process would look, to me would make the most sense, because we've seen different examples of times with when you allow the state to manage with the permit system or to manage that, whatever it looks like, how that control, you kind of give up all control to it.
Worst case scenario, they'll impose one anyway and you'll still have it regardless, but you tried.
But we tried.
You made it, you tried.
I think it's a show of good faith. That's what we're trying to do with this, is that we're trying to attack it more proactively, and just this is a good faith show of attempt that we're doing everything that we can to address this issue.
Should we have a date that the moratorium would be revisited, rather than just having a blank one saying?
The answer is yes.
Okay.
So
It will be for a time certain. There'll be criteria in that.
We're gonna have, I think we probably title a temporary moratorium and set a review date, based upon what we learned about fixing the sewer plant, what the planning commission has available. We may get to the point, but I would hate to have we get to the point where we start to pick and choose who can attach and who can't.
Right.
But we'll learn more once we have the plant, know its true capacity, when it's operating efficiently, which hopefully is the next item on the agenda. And we'll know more how we want to handle this moratorium. But yeah, it has to be a short term, because otherwise you're strangling whatever growth you have. I mean, you're talking any new residents, business, whatever. So again, that's not a major issue at this point, because there's not a huge volume. And the planning commission would be the point of the spear that was going to be handling these things. So it'd be important for us to keep them, your new chairman of the planning commission is very competent to handle those issues.
Is there any other questions? I'll go ahead and draft something up and between the attorney and myself. The septic sewer, I think, is something we can address because it doesn't impact the system the same. So I think that that's probably a
As long as they
conversation.
have enough wood, you know, on their land to,
Yes.
for the field lines and all that stuff.
Yes.
And basically, half of the town is on sewer anyway, I think, basically half the town, not even half, is it?
I wish I could tell you, but there's no maps, GIS or anything else for me to put my finger on. It's what I've asked since I've gotten here, and there's not a lot of institutional knowledge that exists with that.
Well, that's something we probably need to get at it.
It's definitely on my radar.
Okay.
So, and that brings me to the next part of this. So, as I said, the day of my existence since I've been here has been dealing with the wastewater plant and the things going on. With staffing what it is and all those types of things, I'm at a point where I know that the previous manager had discussed with you about possibly bringing in a operational company because I have a notice of violation where I don't have an operator, nor have we had an operator for quite some time to be able to sign off and things. I have reached out to a neighboring community operational group to kind of get guidance and direction. The overall goal, I have to know what the board's will is. The ability to run the plant is beyond the city's or the town's scope of ability. And no matter whether I went out and tried to hire, 2 operators as TDEC would like me to, we're not gonna turn this around that way. So I'm at a place where I'm gonna be asking for the board's approval to go forward with a request for proposals and price points to run the operation of the wastewater plant. I have invited Infomark here as a local company that is our neighbor. They have a history of success in a neighboring community. I've also talked to them about a bridge to get me in compliance with the notice of violation for not having an operator, and he's exploring some of those options for me at this time, but we don't have any numbers or anything to get us there. But it'll allow me to comply. We passed the deadline of December 8th for having operators on staff. So I got a notice, the mayor got it as well. I responded back. They have moved it to the day after Christmas now. I'm not gonna be able to fill a position in 30 days or 60 days. The competitive nature of the market right now is such that that's not possible. So I've spoken to Matt Malone, and I would like to introduce him. Matt Malone from Infomark, and he has been involved with Infomark for a very long time. And he is a regional office that is local to us, and they're running our neighboring jurisdictions, water, wastewater. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So with that, I'll turn it over to him for a few moments. If you have any questions of what we're doing, certainly I have to go out for a proposal process. I'm sure there would be but one bidder of that, but I wanted to have somebody that could speak intelligently to an outside firm running the operation as opposed to an internal.
Thank you, Mr. Stables. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Board of Aldermen. My name is Matt Malone, representing a company called Infomark. We specialize in water and wastewater operations. That is the sole core of our business and what we do from coast to coast. Locally, we operate neighboring Bristol, Tennessee, Virginia Regional Wastewater Treatment Plant, and I've been there since 2007. Our regional office for this region, Virginia, North Carolina, and Tennessee, is at the Bristol office. I am the regional manager over that region. I reside in Kingsport. So very much a neighbor reaching out. Mr. Staples and his predecessor briefed us, and we've been in conversation since dating back to 2019 about the issues at the wastewater treatment plant. And just wanted to, introduce myself, our company, and what we do, but give an overview of what contract operations and maintenance of your facility would look like. And then, mainly to answer any questions, because I'm sure there's a ton. So contract operations, what does that look like? We would become, or anybody in our position would become a partner to Mount Carmel. We work directly with the city management and with the directions of the town to operate and maintain the wastewater facility in full compliance. That includes the day-to-day operations, sampling, compliance, navigation through the state regulatory agencies, partnering in with any construction projects. I understand that you're rebuilding the entire facility. Really anything that has to do with your wastewater treatment facility is available to fall under our scope of services. We take the burden of all of these struggles and challenges that Mr. Stables had just mentioned: staffing, expertise, operational challenges, navigating through and managing engineers, contractors, the whole gamut of the bane of the existence would fall under our scope of services. We would ideally like to come in and like I said, be your partner to not only guide you through these current challenges, but set up a long-term partnership to do this day to day and work hand in hand with the town, but take this worry off of your plate to where you could focus on the other concerns of the town outside of the wastewater treatment plant. So that's it in a nutshell. Like I said, I'm sure that there's hundreds of questions, so I'll give you this opportunity to inquire about really anything. We could talk at length, and I could be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
What about our current staff that we have currently that's over at the sewer plant?
Anytime,
If they took over, where would they go?
anytime that we would come in, the first thing we're going to do is give an opportunity for all of the existing employees. There's two reasons for that. One, as Jim said, recruiting staff is going to be the largest challenge of this transition, no matter who takes over. From my understanding, there's about 50% of the current staff that needs to be replaced due to vacancy. That's going to create a challenge in itself. The other is and I'm speaking on behalf of Infomark only, we are a partner to the town. It is as high of a priority to provide a long-lasting career for our team than it is to operate in compliance. Those fall on the same priority list for our company. So the existing employees on day one would be given an opportunity to join the team. We do have standards, and I'm assuming that the city of Mount Carmel has similar standards with background testing and drug testing. But barring those would pass, they would be given an opportunity to join our team. I will add on that our business is long-term partnerships on what we do. The majority of our facilities that aren't new and under this, we've had, for over a decade. We are here to not only take care of your day-to-day problems, but everybody that joins our team and our family of employment is going to be given a career opportunity. So the short answer is everybody that's currently employed, it's going to be our goal to retain that staff and create an employment opportunity. With that, we are going to be providing solutions to your issues, and part of a common solution to the issue is building and maintaining a high-performing team. So everybody would have that opportunity, but they would have to be willing to join in and buy into the culture of a high-performing team that ultimately is going to be what solves the issues here at the Mount Carmel wastewater treatment plant.
We have a bunch of equipment up there. You bring your own equipment in, or you going to try to run that?
What do you mean by equipment? Are you talking about the stationary equipment?
Loaders, all sorts of stuff up there, dump truck.
Dump trucks and stuff like that.
So we would work that out. That would be part of what you guys determine would be in the scope in your RFP. What we typically do, and I say typically, it varies from client to client, from town to town. We would typically bring in our own, I'll say rolling stock, if that makes sense, maintenance trucks. We would determine if you guys have a fully stocked tool garage. There's no reason for us to put that in our pricing that's ultimately going to get paid out by the town to replace. We would identify that level of ownership. Typically with the moving equipment, we would maintain ownership of that. Everything else, typically, that would be at your discretion, would remain in ownership of Mount Carmel. So,
But you would run it, you would use that
Correct.
equipment.
correct. That's correct. Yeah, and we can't bring in well, we could, but we can't bring in a auxiliary wastewater treatment system. So all of the pumps, the motors, the blowers, all of that equipment would stay
The
in
presses.
insane. Yeah,
All of the fixed assets that go with the plant would continue to be with the plant.
it would be our responsibility to operate and maintain that. That's in our scope of services within our typical contracts. Any improvements that go with, like I said, that ownership stays with the client.
Would the rate ownership stay with us as well?
The rate.
Rate, like sewer rate?
Yes, yeah. We do have full community management services, but typically what we do is strictly focus on operations and maintenance of the facility. That's our core business. We will be a partner with that. So Mr. Staples and I have already talked about some different options on, helping forecast the future costs. All of the costs associated with the treatment of your wastewater continuously inflate along with all the other operating costs of your facilities. We would help guide you through that process, but ultimately that revenue would stay with the town of Mount Carmel. We would strictly operate and maintain the facilities.
And maintain all those pump stations and stuff like that outside the sewer plant?
Yes, that would be in what I would assume would be the scope of services. Ultimately, that's for the town of
The
Mount
collection
Carmel.
system and the plant are all
Yeah.
part and parcel to what we're talking about with the sewer operation. So I say all that to say, we would maintain what we're asking. They would provide full service
That's correct.
to the entire system.
I know this community is a little different. We got little grinder pumps in people's houses there. You don't see them very much anymore. Do y'all take care of them too?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I understand there's quite a few in Mount Carmel,
Yes.
so that's going to be the
They're familiar.
main focus.
And we've had honest conversation throughout this, because that is a unique thing
Yes.
here from my experience, so.
So is this something that we would be able to, what's the timeline look like for this kind of, I know we have to go out for bids essentially for what you said,
Proposals.
proposals. Will that be able to, will we be able to meet the deadline that we've been given with that?
For the 26th, no. But if I can get to a place where he can do time and materials to bridge me, and what I mean by that is he provides an operator and staffing to bridge the vacancies we currently have, but he's got certified operators as well, we may be able to get to that place. Now, there is no guarantee that he ends up with a contract in the end either, because it's got to go through the public process of a proposal.
It does, but there's a slight difference between asking for sealed bids for a project and asking for sealed proposals. Sealed proposals are something that you take into, one of the major things you take into consideration is the reputation, the quality of the workmanship, and the competence that you believe you have. In other words, this is one of those things, it's not going to the lowest bidder. It's going to the person you thinking provides the best value for the town, taking into consideration. And there are not a great many of firms such as Infomark, from my understanding.
Right.
So we'll put the proposal out there and see what it is, and hopefully,
Where y'all do your, do y'all do your pumps, your plants a certain way, or every plant's a little different? You prefer doing?
I wish that there was a standard operating procedure for every plant that would make my life and all my teammates' lives a lot easier, but every plant, even if it's designed the exact same, if the town of Churchill had a mirror image of what you have in Mount Carmel, it would still operate differently because of the waste stream coming in.
I know.
So we take and analyze every detail of your facility and develop what we call the operations blueprint for your facility.
I guess what I'm saying, we're getting ready to start phase 2 there. Would y'all like to be involved with that
Absolutely.
before we start phase 2?
I asked that question of him, and the answer is yes. Whoever our service that comes in would be part of the build, so they understand it, and that's where the institutional knowledge comes
Yeah,
in.
it does.
And
Y'all may see something might be a little easier,
Yeah.
we need to do that thing too may not even be involved yet there.
We ask that we're involved in all of that. You know, at the end of the day, we are going to be your partner. We are going to be the expertise and knowledge for your wastewater system. We certainly want to be involved in the future progression of design, construction, startup, and continuing operations in your facility. There's a lot of decisions that need to be made correctly right now that ultimately you're going to be stuck with for the life of that equipment. Industry average for wastewater equipment is going to be in between 25 and 40 years. So we're making, you know, career decisions at this point. We certainly would ask that we would be a part of that.
The other thing that I'd like to talk about what he said, when I came in this room, I actually talked to y'all about service life and service expectancy and things like that. This is exactly what his industry does, and this isn't my industry certainly, but I talked about it with fire trucks. Fire trucks don't last forever. You have to plan for obsolescence, you have to plan for a breakdown, you have to plan for those things. He's been doing this for a number of years, and they know how to do that industry. So we speak the same language, just in different dialects, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that appeals to me most of all, for someone to be, and that's gonna be part of the proposal process as well, is making sure that we have a life expectancy and a replacement schedule in place, talking about depreciation and all those things. So you'll see me pushing more and more for those things, because that's sustainability. All of these decisions that are being made today are gonna outlive my life cycle probably. And, you know, that's where I'm at with this, so.
Again, with our available scope of services is full asset reviews and evaluations. So we'll come in and literally look at every single motor, every moving part of your facility, and generate a status of service of that. So layman's terms, we'll come up to every single pump and moving part of it and determine a rate, you know, 1 through 5. Everything's in a rate of failure. As soon as you hit on any piece of equipment, it's in some state of failure. That state of failure may be 40 years from now, it may be 40 minutes from now. We would use in that event, we would use our staff to come in and analyze everything to help you develop those predictive capital improvement plans. To not just think about what fires need to be put out today, but what do we need to do 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, to guarantee the success of the operations, you know, long term. Because ultimately, there's nothing that's going to happen that's going to take this, I don't want to say issue, I'll refer to it as a responsibility for the town of Mount Carmel away. You're always going to have wastewater, no matter what happens or where it goes. It's always going to be a responsibility. So that's the value of bringing on a firm, especially like ours, that we would work with you to look out, to zoom away from just what our contract is, to look at, you know, the next 40 plus years, to be a partner with that. So.
Do y'all have a group that comes in that does pumps? Let's say a pump station goes out.
Mm-hmm.
Do y'all have a company inside your company that comes in and just does that?
We, when you say it goes out, are you talking about, you know, needing to be rebuilt or maintained? Or?
Yeah, right now, we have the pump replaced. We have to hire a company come in there and redo all that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know it, since we're a big company, y'all may have a specialty crew that comes in and just does certain things.
So the short answer is yes. We do have a full engineering staff. We do self-perform some small to mid-level projects. You know, rebuilding the plant, we would partner with the design and construction crews. For that one specifically, we would look at it. What we would do is analyze the situation, see what our internal staff has to offer, and if it's more advantageous for our team to handle that, you know, we would propose to do it that way. If it would be a better value to the town of Mount Carmel to, you know, partner with a good engineer and have it done that way, you know, we determine that on a case by case basis.
If you need to bring more people from another plant come and help you out to do something, you can bring them in and.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We operate as a team. We operate as in the team we operate as a family, but you know, externally, what we can say publicly, we operate as a team. On day one, that is the value of us specifically, having the number of talented and trained professionals that we have at our Bristol location. Just off the top of my head, we've got 10 folks that hold the license necessary to operate your facility. If I understand, it's a grade 2 facility, correct?
Correct.
So, we have 10 licensed operators that theoretically would be able to come in. Now, it is a high-performing team in Bristol too, so they have a full workload as well. When emergencies happen, when it hits the fan, that's when the beauty of density in the region.
I guess that's more what I'm talking about.
We've got over 300 employees in what we call the East Region that we operate within. Having somebody as close as Bristol is easy as me picking up the phone and figuring out who could come to the occasion. But in true emergencies, we just sent a group of operators from New York to Georgia to help out with a facility that it was actually a new facility, similar situation. They didn't have any operators. We come in and we needed 2 folks to help bridge that gap. Once we got the contract, we shipped the crew down from New York to do it. So we would hope that wouldn't happen with us in Bristol being so close. But certainly, yeah, that would on a regular basis happen, especially with the higher level jobs like the higher level maintenance, larger projects, replacing pumps at the lift stations if it's larger, more than a 2-man crew,
Yeah.
or something that's outside of the expertise of the on-site staff, and then that's where we've got you strengthen our numbers.
Yeah, I know you could bring a contractor in, that costs you more money, you could bring a contractor in, but you got a crew already that can come in here and take care of it.
That's right.
It'll save you a lot more money that way.
Matter of fact, on any large project, that's, we want to be a part of that because it may be something to where, okay, for this specific scope of services, we will be able to save, in some occasions, millions, and that's not an exaggeration. I can't get into details, but with local clients here in Tennessee, we are actually looking to do exactly that and handle things with our on-site staff and with our company that's going to save upwards of $1 to $2 million on a large project.
Okay.
So I don't want to go too deep into the operational side because we don't know whether they're going to be our operation or not. What I do want to go is back to the will of the board. Do you want to move forward with
Yes. Yep.
these types of things? Because we can hash this out at the meeting, but that way we can move the item to the meeting because we certainly can't do anything
Ask
here.
him a question,
Okay,
it'll be easy.
okay.
Is that bringing you in here as a subcontractor, or whatever you wanna be called, or I call it outsourcing, what I call it?
Yeah.
Is that gonna shoot the rates up?
It may reduce it. I can't answer that question right now because we need to get in and analyze every detail of your wastewater facility to come up with a proposal.
If not, the state's gonna do it.
That was a question I asked, if we would maintain control of the rates. So would the rates go up from day one? No.
The answer is no.
We would have to be the ones that raise the rates. So we would maintain the rate ownership. They're just taking over the operation. So we would, it may get to a point, I mean, hopefully they'll be able to analyze the plant, analyze the way we're doing business and find a cheaper way of doing it that we might not have to adjust rates. That would be a matter of they would have to go over there and get that information first.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Does anybody have any other questions as far as the direction to go forward?
I think we need to absolutely explore the not bids, what was that? Proposals, thank you.
So-
Explore the proposals.
I'm gonna bring it back to number 12 now, the purchasing policy. We need to adopt a purchasing ordinance to be able to do what we're talking about with purchasing with a proposal process. So I'm gonna have to go through an ordinance process with a purchasing ordinance. Have an MTS example that's given, but it's complying with TCA and the MTS purchasing. So as long as it takes me to get that ordinance through, is how long it would take me to get the proposal process out on the street. My suggestion is that the proposal is out for 30 to 45 days. That's the appropriate amount of time for a proposal to be out, or a request for proposals. And then we bring it back in and we do what we do as a grading and evaluation process.
Would we be able to go ahead and get that first reading of the ordinance done this month?
The answer is yes. But the answer is yes. I can draft this and get it on the agenda, and that's why I wanted to bring that up, so we'll cover 12 now too. So there'll be a first reading for the ordinance on this meeting if that's the will of the collective body.
Yes.
I believe we
Okay.
set the policy for anything like that
Okay.
yeah. Good. they have.
Very good.
Are you gonna be able to do the bridge in between time?
That's up to them, and I will stay in contact with him, but he wasn't able to talk to everybody that he needed to talk to be able to answer that question. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct.
So until he can tell me whether they can or they can't, and we can enter into a temporary agreement
Yeah.
to do the bridge process, we're still doing what we do.
We are prioritizing that to help out, regardless of what happens in the future. We want to help out as a neighbor. So if we can come to agreements on the terms and conditions of a contract that's advantageous for both parties, that's our intent. We just are not at the finish line to start that today.
What do you envision a normal time frame for that would be?
I'm hoping that, we could work through the fine lines of it, and we would certainly need your counsel and input as well. But I think that that's something that we could work through before the timeline of the 26th. I'm hopeful with that.
That's my concern.
We may have to have a special meeting, because I can't enter into the agreement certainly, but,
We talked about this, we had to,
If
or
we
maybe
have
set up
to.
a special call meeting for this one item, like we did.
We've done in the past.
Yes.
Sent to us
for him,
this year.
for Hugh, and that's the other part is, I hate to see Hugh go, but obviously if we take them on, Hugh's services are no longer needed. He's done a great job for us though, and I want to commend him for everything he's done. But his whole goal being here was to work himself out of a job.
Right.
Just so y'all are aware of that, and he has done,
I'm a short time.
he's been,
It breaks your heart.
he's been well worth the money that we've paid him. in the
I've
time.
had a blast. This is entertainment to me. I like it.
I guess it's gonna be Nick's job, won't you?
I'll probably find another one, yeah.
Okay.
Proceed with that, so that'll go ahead and check off number 12 there, and we'll get back
Yep.
on.
So,
We're back on to 7 now,
Yes.
everybody good to proceed to 7?
Thank you.
Any other questions for me? Really appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Thank you so much, I
Thank you.
appreciate y'all.
Thank you.